All right, take it away, Jacques.
All right, can I get the screen sharing?
Again, I do it every time.
All right, here we go. Share. All right, so yeah, on the heels of last week, this week is going to be pretty straightforward. I think we've kind of got the different sections pretty well situated, and now it's just kind of going to be us honing in on exactly how we're going to focus on different areas. So last week was really like the marketing strategy, and this is, you can think of it as the marketplace, or the exact things that we're going to be focusing on in the different areas. So just to give some context, we're going to be looking at essentially what we went through last week and just picking out one item from each area to say, like, this is for the days, this is what we're focused on, and this could be like the potential point person, and then within that, I don't, like, there's not too much after this that we would need to do, I don't think. Really, within each of the sections, it'll be each of us just adding context to it. So
Cool.
I think dive in. So again, for this first one, with the mission that's related to book quotes, I think this could be something that just ties into like the gaming aspect. Maybe like we can pull a book quote, add a question prompt, and that's basically it. It's pretty straightforward. Wasn't too much discussion on that. The next area for like the community aspect, this is where we were talking about virtual events with Mozilla Hub, like the BTC names, DWork and Project Zero, and also like the stacking pool onboarding initiative. Like, with the understanding that each of these are going to be worked on, it seemed like for the days that the stacking pool would be the main focus, but I wasn't, like, that's essentially this is all we're going to be doing here is honing in on these deliverables. Is that what you would think would be the main aspect of us building a community with the virtual event stacking pool?
Yeah. Well, that'll be the main. So I think events, and maybe even events is the wrong word. Maybe you need a cooler word than that, because that sounds kind of boring, doesn't it? We're having an event. But yeah, it's something like that anyway.
Okay.
Stacking pool is like the thing that powers the learning community. And I think the deliverables would be learner projects as well. So like having something like I keep talking about Jill's card game because I'm so excited about it, but that would be like one of the deliverables, right? So it's like, all right, we got this learning community now, and we have this curriculum. We have consensus around it between us, and that's still open to interpretation for other people to contribute to and change, and learners to upgrade. But well, I guess that's a deliverable as well, right? The actual curriculum, so the open curriculum, and then the end result is basically a network that can fund learners' projects with BTC.
And they included some of them as case studies. And also, it would be great to have some ebooks created by young people, their stories. Because hearing stories from other young people is something
powerful.
Young can identify with and see, hey, look what they did, what's possible. And it can bring in a different sort of, with maybe a photo of the kid and some things he did and why he did what he did and how he did it and she did it and whatever. But children's stories can be really powerful, and case studies for those who want to look a little bit deeper into the, learning aspects, the research, move forward and things like that.
Just
100%.
on that, that's a really good idea. I wonder, with regards to our outreach to community, then, do we maybe connect with some researchers in universities who are maybe, people doing their masters or even their PhD research in sort of a project-based learning aspect with schools, and technology, and maybe they'd like to, I don't know, maybe connect with us in a way that those case studies that they're working with could actually be sort of connected to maybe what we're doing. Anyway, just an idea. As you
Yeah, like real life. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I heard a wonderful.
I suppose also positioning us as well.
Yeah, just dawned on me. I've got one of my friends in Sydney. He's actually written a number of books on PBL specifically. I never even thought to reach out to him for this project. him and his wife, like they've written after this, I'm gonna hit him up because I reckon they'll dig this, and they'll have students that'll have projects that they're working on. Yeah. That's
so
thanks for jogging my memory.
Video, well, I watched that video on PBL yesterday. Actually, it was quite long, and I was like, I don't know much about waterways and fish and so on in Sacramento, but I watched the whole thing, and I was like, oh, okay, I sort of get this. I get what they're trying to do with regards to the project and documentation. So there must be lots of that going on that we could connect in a way with
Heaps.
Bitcoin.
High Tech High is another one that I'd like to reach out to as well. Like they do some amazing stuff. So we've actually got a film. Karen, do you remember the name of the film that they created?
I can look it up. I can find it again. I've seen it a couple of times. It's
amazing. It's wonderful. I went to go visit. Actually, Bob Perlman, who you met on this, was actually is friends with the principal and the creator of that school. So they put me in contact. I went down to San Diego and actually had a visit, and it's amazing. Like it's like project-based learning through the whole school. And I think even like Bill Gates was like quoted as saying like every school should be like this sort of thing. But I think like what we're building is kind of taking that to the next level. So instead of those projects just being in a school and that's great, how about you build something, and then the problem aspect, that's where it comes in. So like not what project do you want to do, not what do you want to be when you grow up, what problem do you want to solve, and let's help you build a project, scaffold something around that with you.
Just on that, I think I mentioned it before, the other group that we probably should be connecting into is the International Baccalaureate system, because they actually, as part of their completion of their year 10, they get the students to actually do project-based learning for a year, and they have to document in a similar way to that video. They have to document everything. So if there were students who were wanting to connect within the support group of what the School of Bitcoin were offering, we could contribute to and support and empower them on that year-long journey for year 10 in their project.
Great idea.
Yeah, and I'm happy to, once we're a little bit more focused in, I suppose, how we're reaching out to people, I'm happy to reach out to some of those groups in IB. I think I've got some contacts that might be of use. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I think we need to probably finish like the days and the structure for that, and get our curriculum down pat. I think even just the intro for the curriculum, like I said, the bid entry program, the way we're sort of happy with it, and once we have that, I reckon we start reaching out and seeing who wants to be involved, and it could be a school, could be a group of schools. I think the school in Vietnam would be very keen to jump on board and start building stuff out. So yeah, for sure.
Just going back to what Karen was saying before, I really liked that idea of developing those case studies, because it gives such legitimacy and respect within the professional community of education when there are those kind of case studies. So certainly if we were connecting maybe with the Vietnam school, that would be, that would be a really good place maybe to write up some of those stories.
Yep, 100%. Oh, and that reminds me actually, so that 24 hours of PBL, I did it last year. Basically, I think because they try to do it all live, I think this year they're doing it pre-recorded, which is kind of better because you can make a better presentation. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll definitely do it. And I thought, well, why don't we do it as a group pres and talk about what we're building and why we're building it, and see if we can get it all into 20 minutes or whatever it is. But if you guys want, you're more than welcome to do it with me.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Sure.
That's cool.
It will be wonderful if and when we can do some live events too, because there's nothing like person-to-person contact. I mean,
Oh yeah.
e-learning is fantastic in the fact that it can make so many people in so many different places accessible. But actually being there and be able to say, hey, hang on a minute, can we chat some more about this over, when we have a break or whatever? And it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I do miss
Yeah.
events like that for sure. Feels like it's been a lifetime since the last big like EDU event I've been to, like Edutech or something. So
Just,
yeah.
Yeah.
And if we make them intergenerational events, that's something that's I've been sort of very involved in with children's rights things, and what we can learn from 4-year-olds, from 8-year-olds, from 12-year-olds, and how we can sort of ask questions that we're puzzled about and have them explain and also answer their questions too. It sort of makes it very powerful for everybody.
Intergenerational, yes, 100%.
And also it highlights for older people's ignorance, highlights you don't know what you don't know until you've got a teenager explaining it to you.
Yeah.
Talking about e-learn events, I was in future I'll tell you any ones that I know are coming up that I think would be relevant. There was a Project Zero conference this weekend, and the title of it was Learning That Matters. And
nice.
one of the phrases, one of the expressions in it that I think is so powerful, there are so many, but I'm not going to spend time now talking about it, but was expect the unexpected. I think that captures a lot of
It does, yeah.
I'll stop there.
Sounds like the markets at the moment.
I was about to say that's exactly what I was feeling with the Stacks grant. I was like, oh, okay, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
This is great. I think here, so I'll run through kind of high level what I think some of the main focuses are, because I think there's a lot of different pockets here. So with the community aspect, it seems like virtual and in-person events around project-based learning is the focus here. And then for like the next aspect with the video aspects that we were talking about last week, these were like the brainstorms that we had. And then from that, it seemed like student videos paired with like Bitcoin nodes that they could create was a focus there. I'll just keep running through these and then we can come back and see if there's others that we have in mind. For like the marketing aspect of things, it seems like just an open source campaign where learners can create something is prudent there. For the actual portfolio of the marketplace, I think this is where we have the NFT certifications, and then the overall, like how that plugs into the overall learner network would be the deliverable there is how I'm seeing it.
Yep.
For the writing aspect, this is the Substack series that we have. And I think this is where we can bring in different writers and we can do these case studies that we have in mind. The storytelling aspect is, last week we were talking about children's books. Karen, you brought up a good point of like ebooks. I think this would be a good place for that. I don't know if children's books is the way to go about this, but it seemed like it was a popular thought of ways to approach it last week.
And having ebooks and hard copies is great because we don't know what access people have got participating in this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And people love hard copy books as well. They still buy them.
Right.
Yeah. For a kid to hold in his hand and for parents to read them with their kids is a very nice part of sharing learning and understanding.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Then this next section, it seems the bit entry, the first iteration of the curriculum would be the deliverable for like the coursework aspect of it. For the gaming aspect, the card game, web application built on stacks. It seems like there's ideas flush out there. And then for the overall, like the journaling or the data aspect would be the GitHub repository that we would that would kind of bundle each one of these sections up as like we would be able to fill in the actual values. So that's what, based on what we talked about last week, these are the areas that seemed were the highest priority. But again, this is just based on what we've gone through from the previous weeks, going through the this curriculum process. After this, I would really be putting this together in a kind of like a cleaner document that people can go through, and then we can continue to refine it.
Yep.
At this point, I would just start populating things into GitHub.
Yep.
But are there any sections here that we would want to like dive in or talk about specifically that I touched on?
Yeah, let me just go back over it.
Again, yeah.
Can you go back to, oh dear. Sorry, can you guys still hear me? Just
Yeah.
Yes.
plug my phone in.
Yep.
Can you go back to where the card game was with regards to, is that in deliverables?
Yes. So the card game. Yep.
Focus, yeah. Did you manage to see, just trying to think, in the Discord channel, I think I put it in, maybe it was staff or maybe it was, I can't remember which channel I put it in, but I came across in Gitcoin, when I was doing some research in Gitcoin, a group of developers who are looking at DeFi for teaching your kids DeFi. Did you see that? I'm just trying to think what it was called.
I missed that.
No, I must have missed that as well.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not obviously on my computer at the moment, but it is in the Discord channel. And so when I was going through, the Gitcoin hub where people are actively looking for funding. Have you been to that where you can actually actively look for funding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it.
You found it? I can't remember what it's called.
In the grants channel, I think you put it. Academy users will learn about topics such as blockchain infrastructure. Yeah, cool.
So it's
I'll
just
put it in
an
the chat.
interesting whether or not we reach out to those developers, because essentially they are creating something that looks still in its embryonic stages, but they're essentially it's conceptually in line with projects, I suppose, that would come out from the School of Bitcoin, in that they're teaching in their they've got like a sandbox where they've got pretend money for parents to actually work with DeFi in a means to teach their kids DeFi in a safe space.
That's cool.
Which I would have thought would have been exactly the kind of project we would be looking for to put in as a deliverable, perhaps.
Yeah.
So yeah, thoughts. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so there's Bankless. I think there's another one, isn't there? DeFi, I think Bankless is one, but I think the other one is, anyway, there's a couple there. Yeah.
Few similar sort of projects, yeah, right.
Yeah. But how we reach out and have, why would they necessarily want to connect with what we're doing? I don't know. I don't know what kind of conversations, how you sort of work with regards to them.
Approach that.
Maybe wanting to, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, something like that, I think once we sort of build something big enough that has enough, I guess, yield from what we're creating. So like in that space, we could potentially fund things like this, right? So that makes a lot of sense to be looking at that. So, I mean, even the structure for like this grants page, that's kind of something that we could do, but instead of grants for projects, it's for learner projects, so for PBL specifically, which could be anyone, right?
Yeah.
So
that takes us back to that conversation I think we had last week with regards to sort of setting ourselves up as sort of like in that sort of publisher, more a case, like you say, where, yeah, we're in a more, do you say that ranking with regards to sort of publisher status?
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely, it's very hard to find analogies. Like I was chatting to Gordon in a lecture about how do you explain what we're doing and try and fit it into like have an analogy to the legacy system, and it's very difficult because that's not what we want to do, right? Like we're building something new, and there is no real analogies. So yeah, it's difficult, but I mean, projects like this though, like the Gitcoin one, and having you know a page of stuff that they're looking at funding, that's on point. That's akin to what we're doing for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
All right. So on my end, there's really not much more here. I think we could keep refining what the actual deliverable focus is, but really us, like as an example, Jill, you've already been, which one would this relate to? For the writing aspect here, you've already started adding to the deck about the day's creation process. So within this, as we keep going, it'll just be us building this out, and that's what it seems like for each of these areas. Like with the NFT certification and the open learning network, Kieran, like NFT minting, the repository from Stacks, and then you have the open learning network. So like in this area, maybe you and I can start talking a little bit more focused about how we build that out.
Yeah, for sure. Should we have a document for this, do you reckon, or just put it straight into GitHub?
I think in GitHub, I'll just have the high level, and then from there, I guess we can have documents that show how we specifically build it out.
Yep.
So is that, I guess, Google Docs?
Yeah, it's probably easiest, right?
Okay.
Unless we want to try Notion, we could.
Yeah, we could do that.
Have a play with it.
Yeah. So maybe I can create just like a space for each one of these deliverables. And then people can start filling in how we build out towards it. Yeah. So I guess for the curriculum, we have that in Gitbook that we're already working towards.
Or do we, just thinking out loud, like do we, because we want it to be sort of forkable, should it all be sitting on GitHub so someone can do that? Do you know what I mean? Is that that's the goal, right? So if we go,
you're saying, yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So do we do Google Doc it, write each of these points up, and then bang that into GitHub as we go? Might be the way to go. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Rather than introducing Notion at this point, might be silly.
Yeah.
And that the doc would be great.
Yeah,
you can play with that very easily.
Easily, that's right. Karen, did you get a chance to chat to Ray at all?
No, but I'll talk. Sorry, he was online at something I was on, not the PZ conference, but something else this weekend, and I'd be very happy to discuss that with you too.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll have a chat later.
He was highly valued, highly valued.
Yeah, I'd love to get him on at some point.
Yes, absolutely. And when you were talking about High Tech High, I was thinking about Ray then also, because he also enabled so much of similar things in a primary. And I saw immediately a connection with that. And I think
to be totally fair, I think honestly, if you compared Warana and High Tech High, there was more student-centric projects happening at Warana than even High Tech High, and it was just like in hindsight, looking back, like wow, like it was really cutting edge, like when you think about it,
in so many ways. And it's exciting to see what is possible when there is student-centric learning. They're not limited by all the things that older people, and older can just mean 25 or 30, but there's an expression, children learn school. In traditional schools, children learn that what you're meant to do at school is give the right answer, be quiet unless you're asked to do something, follow instructions, and if that's what learning school is, how much are we missing out on, and what is possible if kids are the ones who lead the learning? And if or a provocation is put out there, or a question, or a wondering, or a puzzle, and say, hey, how can we go about this? What do you think? It's so different. How about we do this?
Karen, can I add something to that is I suppose a reason why it's difficult to de-school or to sort of unravel that package, and that is the increasing branding of and privatization and basically business behind school models these days. So maybe not so much with the public schools, but with the private schools that are increasing in number. A lot of them create a lot of institutionalized rules in order to contribute to brand building, and I've seen a lot.
You're right.
In Queensland. Yeah, and so to enable that beautiful learning, which is spontaneous, often imaginative and innovative, that sort of releases some of the control mechanisms that many of the building of the brand needs to be able to control the brand, which is very sad and maybe not a conversation necessarily for where we're going, but it is one of the challenges, I think, in trying to remind people where the essence and truth of learning really lies.
Nah, you're 100% right, Jill. So I've worked in all three major types of schools in Australia. So like Catholic ed, a private K-12 school, and government, and they each have their points that basically single points of failure, you could call them. But so the government school obviously is compliance. So the compliance is just out of control, and you have this centralized a body basically that really pushes to control, and will go out of their way to shut down amazing schools like our one, or even just try and ruin it, sort of thing. The K-12, you're 100% right. It's sort of like you have companies and stuff that really embed themselves into that, and it's kind of gross, really, like when you're thinking about it.
It is
in terms of like a learning environment. And then you also have like the school council at those schools that are
usually business people,
lawyers, doctors, and they're like, I want the same education I had 50 years ago because it was good enough for me. And they're like, they can't see it, right? They can't see that those days are gone, like it's over. And then obviously Catholic ed or religious schools, you have the church, and they probably can't see it either. They get in the way of education. So like I worked at a really cool school that we went like one-to-one devices. This is like 2008. We went paperless. Had this awesome principal. She was like crazy, but good crazy. She's like, we're doing it. We went like Dropbox, like the whole thing. Kids loving it. Then the priest and the diocese got in the way. That we don't like that. Got rid of her. Got rid of all the devices, and kids were devastated. So it's that's what like, and that's what I've been going back and forth with is like, well, all these institutions have their problems. They're all doing cool stuff, but there's the outside entities kind of ruining them. So how do we build a protocol that fixes that? And that's what we're doing with this. So I was literally looking at another school to go to, and thinking, all right, well, how like I could probably build up another school and do all this cool stuff, but then there's these single points of failure that can ruin it. How do we do that? So that's when literally I sat down, instead of doing that, wrote that white paper that I shared with you, Jacques. And I was like, I could kind of get angry about the legacy system, or like that Buckminster Fuller, we can create a new paradigm that makes the old one obsolete. So I think that's what we're trying to do with this. Anyway, rant over.
All the obstacles, all the horrible obstacles pressing on teachers and schools is like the ceiling's being lowered and you can't get out. And part of that is NAPLAN.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
NTA,
standardization.
best
Correct.
scores. And all over the world, there are different pressures on students to achieve certain scores to get into colleges, universities, whatever they're doing next. But
Yes.
that's numbers for assessments taken. As a
Correct.
parent, I remember one of my children seeing the parent side of a report on NAPLAN Jacques national testing that are
Yeah.
mandated across Australia in years level 3, 5, 7 and 9 and focus mainly on literacy and numeracy. And my younger daughter was a whiz in maths. She just liked numbers. and in primary school, I saw her and I was very, she was at a public school then, and I was very lucky in so many ways. When her report came to parents, her math score was in a graph, and it started up really high and across the top, but then it just downlined to the bottom of the page and flatlined in the bottom. And I asked her, I said, "How did you find the maths today?" She said, "Oh, Mum, it was good. It was fine. It was easy, but I was sick." And she'd left early because she wasn't well, and it wasn't anxiety. She was coming down with something, but there was no mark there. And if I was a different parent, I could have gone to the school and said, "Why aren't you teaching my child maths? Why is her score so bad?"
Yeah.
Look, her teacher knew that she was very capable of maths, so that wasn't an issue at all. That it was more the fact that teachers are told to keep children home on the days of those tests because it brings down their school ranking, because there's this My School website that ranks all schools according to these tests. And the way numbers are used against schools, teachers, and most of all children right through is horrendous. And that's what impacts so much on education in Australia. How was your school in the top 10 for the schools that got the highest marks for their students entering university, or in the literacy scores? And PISA does that internationally in different ways.
Yes, does. That's
and
right.
There's something.
It's a really tricky one, isn't it? When our mindset. Sorry, Karen, just to interrupt, but the mindset we have is.
I think I talk too much. They just tell me to shut up. Okay.
Oh no. I was just reflecting on what you're saying, and you're right. Our mindset really comes to that conceptual point of evaluating ourselves with others, and therefore we're sort of sucked into that hierarchical ladder, which is all perception and founded on this legacy system. But it's a tricky one when anyway.
Well, it is a tricky one, and I think it is abuse, really, like stamping a number on a child's head and saying this is what you are.
Yes.
It's disgusting, really, and we've normalized abuse. So because we've all been through it, and because it was fine for me, it's not okay. It's not right, and it doesn't help anyone. So if you're a student that does really well, you're like, oh well, I don't need to do anything. If you're sort of down the bottom, you're like, well, I'm just no good. So it just creates this system of really, like, there's no passion in there. There's no, why would you care? Why would you care about going to school? So how many times do you hear kids saying school sucks? I mean, we didn't have that at Rana a lot. There's kids saying like after school.
And they finished there.
That's right. Like they didn't want to leave. But I think that's the big difference. So like you have these institutions. It really crystallized for me, actually, like, because when you're in an environment for so long, you kind of like get used to it and you kind of forget. But like going to visit other schools and then seeing, somebody, you have someone sort of standing at the front of the room with pretending to know everything with 30 rows of seats with kids sitting there and just screaming at them all day. Like, that's not normal. Like, who came up with this idea? It's just silly. So I think whatever we can do with this project to minimize the harm that sort of system does. So that's why I think problem-based learning and project-based learning at the core, student-centered or learner-centered is the key. And being able to find a mechanism to fund that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jill.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was going to say maybe we should come up with our own model, like a De Bono model or a Ken Robinson sort of sort of slug line or something like that, because we're certainly in line with both of those great educational sort of, I suppose, excuse me for using the word heroes, but teachers look up to people like De Bono and Ken Robinson, and yet once the ceiling is lowered, like Karen says, they're suffocated through the lack of air that suddenly is sucked out of them through the institutionalization, sadly.
Yeah.
I was on the bill with Ken Robinson like the year before he died. It's like the highlight of my whole career. And it was like from Ken Robinson to, I forget what they wrote, but some lunatic who built the world's first school on the blockchain. Kieran, I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
So cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, he was amazing. And I only got to see him.
He was amazing.
Once. Because it was like every time.
Can I tell you my story?
Yeah, please.
So I went to see him at EduTech, super excited, sitting with a lineup of colleagues. And just before he was about to present, I thought, oh, I better go to the toilet because I don't want to go to the toilet while he's speaking, because I ran to the loo just like it was literally 1 minute before he was about to come on stage. Guess who I bumped into? Because he was also running to the loo before. Yeah, so we bumped into each other. Literally,
that's awesome.
Ran into him. Yeah, and I kind of went, oh, excuse me. And he went, oh, I'm sorry about that. And then we both ran to the loo, both got back. He got on stage, I got in my seat and said to my friends,
that's brilliant. That's so cool.
Fantastic.
What a great guy. Yeah, no, 100%. Well, I think that's what we want to build. We want to build something that fosters like his style of education for sure. But the missing piece to all that, and that's why I keep harping on it, is the financial literacy aspect, because that's something that no one touches on, and there's no open framework for learners or students to learn that. And then, it's like, why am I doing this project-based learning? There's problems I want to solve. How do I do that? There's no mechanism for that. So that's the key piece. And if we can build an open framework for that, that's why I've like sort of reworded the website to open curriculum.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to do, right? So if we can do that,
the best from everything that we've all learned from our own different life experiences and learning experiences. And I think that's something very important to consider when under the heading marketing, that when we include names like Project Zero or Edward De Bono or children's rights and things like that, we want to do it with full credit to them. We're not trying to market the project that it's a fabulous project because of that because organizations and people like this make freely available wonderful research-based strategies, and we want to promote things they do so that people will also link into things that they're doing too, so it's good for them too as well as us, not us sort of being the power brokers here, but how we respect and value what they've done. I think that can come across very importantly. And also children's rights, that hey, this is very much for all the things that Kieran was saying there before about kids. We want to make sure that children have equal rights to have opportunities to learn, not just different schools that can collaborate with different organizations, and whether it's business or education, but that there should be equal access for all children and opportunities to be their best selves. And talking about associations that were joined with what we were talking about before, connected with a project I initiated with Project Zero, a collaboration for experiencce principals to get back to who they are and why they went into education in the first place, not just the trivia and pressure. And that's called Leading Learning That Matters. But one of the very first activities we did was at a retreat with the principals from some schools and a diverse group of schools. And their activity was about something about their school. What would a dream, and I'll just move it into a more general form rather than with principals. What would be a dream something for your school? And for us, what would our autonomous dream school be like? How do we wish it was? How do we want it for? Then the next part of it was mysteries. What are the mysteries here? What could get in the way of this? What are the different challenges and obstacles we have to jump over, or hoops we have to crawl through, or, and I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I can look up the words we used exactly. But what are the mysteries here?
enigmas.
Yep. And it could be, who can we talk to about it? Who can we get on board? Who can, shouldn't be the education department or the principal who's lead, even though they all have a lot to offer. Who else can we talk to in our own school or in our own organization? So dreams, mysteries, and actions. What actions are we taking to make it happen?
Yeah.
So dreams, mysteries, actions.
Well, that's what we were doing with the Enigma missions, pretty much, Karen. So it was like, what passion do you have? What action do you want to take for that? And realistically, even though, like Ray will tell you this, even though we thought at the school that the kids were getting, sort of 50-50 time on that, even they'd tell you it was still not enough time for their projects they wanted to build. So it's like even at our school, it was still limited to how much time they could actually pursue what they wanted to.
Time is a major mystery. How
it is
allocated in schools.
Yes, it is 100%.
Pursue what you want. And just one other thing, in my children's rights work, at the end of a residential forum, different residential forums there've been, the last thing that's given to all the people participating, and that's aged from 3 up to older than me from all over the world, your 30-day challenge. What are you going to do in the next 30 days to bring forward what you're planning to do about what we've learned here? So talking about where to from here, from participants to do, and then after 30 days, maybe they send it back to us, or we write a little note about what they've done and what they're doing and what they're doing next. So there's ongoing progress of what's happening and how's it going and what questions have I got and what's been great, that way. Okay, I'm stopping talking.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Very, very cool. Cool. Well, geez, this is a good session. What do you reckon, Jack? Like, what's the next steps in terms of writing stuff up? Just Google Doc it, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I'll set up some Google Docs now, and I'll send them out to the team. And then I don't know what the structure within those docs should be, but maybe it'll just start to take some shape.
Well, I think based off what you've put into like each of these on the Jamboard, I think that's a good structure to kick off with.
I think it should be one. Maybe it'll be like table of contents, and people can fill in their separate sections or each.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Okay. All right.
Good thinking.
Cool.
Was there anything else anyone wanted to touch on?
Nope. I think. I was just going to say where to from here. I'll obviously write up an article for us that touches on some of the ideas I think conceptually that we've discussed. What would you like me to be working on?
Well, I think
where shall I focus?
Well, yeah, definitely do an article because yours have been 10 out of 10. But I think like we were saying, if Jack, if you spin up a doc and maybe do a table of contents, and we can start filling in the different areas that from what we've done already into that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll do another session specifically on Gitbook and putting in content into the curriculum on that as well. Maybe we'll do that this week, and then kick off with that next week. What do you reckon?
Okay, I might go and look at those documents on De Bono that Karen you've suggested. I know his work very well, but I'd like to be thinking a little bit as to how we can maybe tie it into concepts of new ways that we conceptualize money. So I might, Karen, once I've had a look at those documents, I might throw you some sort of musings or brain dump some ideas maybe for us to have that dialogue through the week, if that's okay.
I'm very happy to. Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
And it's great
I'll get moving on that. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yes, I am.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Oh, and then if whoever can make it on Wednesday night, so it's like 9 o'clock here. I've got the D-Work guys, so they're gonna do a run through with us. So I don't know what that time is for you, Shark. It might be too hard, but I think I've sent an invite anyway. So if you can, otherwise no stress. I'll just record it and watch back.
I'd like to, if that's okay, Kieran. I've looked at your work quite extensively, and it's a whole new, for me, it's like getting my head around that's, I think, really important, but it's new. Like, it's new. So I'd really like to be in just to really understand what it's all about.
100%. I'll shoot through another invite just to make sure it comes through.
Brilliant. Thank you.
The more we can all learn, the better. I'm happy to.
Well, you're welcome to join in as well, Karen. I'll shoot you an invite.
If I can, I will. And
see how you go. No stress. No stress. Awesome. Well, thanks heaps, guys, and I'll see you Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks so much.